Hello, we are in GETECCU Podcast. It's for me a really big pleasure to have Professor Silvio Danese with us in our 35th meeting. Silvio Danese is a renowned gastroenterologist and expert in IBD. He has an extensive experience in both clinical practice and research. He is currently the head of the gastroenterology unit in the Ospedale San Raffaele. This is Milan, Italy, and has authored numerous scientific publications focusing on Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Professor Danese's work is recognized internationally, has been ECHO president, and he has contributed significantly to the advance of IBD treatment and patient care. His leadership has been in a lot of clinical trials and involved major European and worldwide research initiatives, and making him a key figure in the field of gastroenterology. So for us, it's a really big pleasure to have you here in that house. And we want to explore both the current advancement and the future directions of IBD treatment to provide some insight of these innovative therapies and their potential to impact the life of the patient that we are taking care of. So can you please share, Professor Danese, your perspective on the current state of biologic therapies for IBD and what have been the major advances, for your opinion, over the past few years?
Hello to everybody, and thank you for the invitation. Well, I would say that biologics has truly changed the way we manage our patients, and in the last probably 10 years, we have moved from biologics last resort for our patients to biologic first, and we have recognized that this concept is really changing the way we are practicing, even though, of course, in some countries for reimbursement policies, this is not achievable, but certainly, for instance, biosimilars have helped us in changing and in shifting this paradigm. And now even the literature is supporting the concept that the use of biologics should be at least in Crohn's disease, maybe even before steroids, even though it could be controversial, the fact of starting with a course of steroids and then biologics. But anyway, I think that the most important thing is not to have patients waiting for a long time and cycling to steroid, but get the therapy when they are at the right time. And then secondly, what has been the big add value? That biologics change the natural course of the disease, and in particular, they are not cosmetics like steroids or conventional treatment, but they really change the biology of the disease, allowing our patients to go back to their normal quality of life. Of course, this is meeting the expectations in around 1/3 of our patients. So we have still 70% of patients that need something else, and that's why we need to do a lot of research.
Room for improvement for this. So how do you see, let's say, not biologics, but new drugs like the JAK inhibitors, and how do you believe that these new drugs have evolved the treatment of both Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis?
I would say that JAKs have really also changed the concept, first of all, because have been the first oral molecules that are an advanced treatment. Secondly, because the concept of combining drugs is truly already at the essence of JAK inhibition in one pill, in which we can hit multiple pathways of inflammation. And that's why we have a really profound remission rates, even though, of course, you need to balance efficacy and safety. That's why we cannot push as much as we would like the dose, but we have the dose that are approved, and that's very important. So JAKs in both Crohn's and ulcerative colitis are really becoming more and more widely used. There has been some refractoriness of the doctors in adopting them because of some safety concerns, but I think now everything has been cleared, and we are using very nicely with speed of action. That is something that our patients experience very nicely because they feel improvement right after, within 1 week of the start and so on. So it's really a big advancement for our Crohn's and UC patients.
And with all your experience, what are your thoughts about the new drug classes? What is for you a new promising new classes in the current of the pipeline of IBD treatment? And how do you think that they can differ from the current therapies that we have already?
So the next generation that is overwhelming our clinical practice are the IL-23 inhibitors. They bring add value because we know that as compared to the first generation, the ustekinumab, to be clear, they are superior, and this is, or at least some of them are superior. Is not always the case, but this is quite important because this is going to be a class of drugs that we are going to use more and more because of the efficacy, safety, and really for the convenience of the patients. Next generation is rich of new mechanism of action. One of these is obefazimod that comes to my mind. The phase 3 is about to be completed, and this is going to be very interesting. And one of the drugs that has been recently approved, etrasimod, is going to be also a real widely used drug because of the safety, the efficacy, and the fact of being oral with an innovative mechanism of action is going to be very, very relevant.
Okay, good. And what about the impact of personalized medicine? Do you think that we can use it and we have biomarkers in order to tailor this treatment?
Unfortunately, so far, I must admit that the research has not delivered what we would like to have. Treatment that allows the personalization for each specific patient according to the treatment that we would like to use. But of course, there are many consortia that are at the moment ongoing, and we will see the results of all these analysis and so on probably in the next 3-5 years. So the future is bright. It's just a matter of time to get there.
And talking about patients, if we want to improve the patient adherence and their outcomes, what do you think about oral biologics?
Oral biologics is next generation. There is a lot of interest, particularly for not only bringing the same mechanism of action that we have, for instance, anti-alpha 4 beta 7 in a pill, anti-L23 on a pill. So basically it's the same mechanism of action put on a pill, but the real issue is at the end what the patient will prefer, because considering that this drug may be effective after the development program, then at the end of the day is a patient that is deciding, do I want to take an injection every month, every 2 months, every 2 weeks, or remembering a pill every day and not to feel sick, because there are patients that consider the needle as part of being sick, the pill as something that is very easy to take and maybe a less dangerous drug. So it's really in the perception of patients what they will prefer. But the good thing is that if you can have 2 classes of drug, both oral and whatever is needle administered, we will be very happy for our patients.
That'll be real personalized medicine, and the patient will choose. So like a summary of what we have talked, how do you think that future therapies will address the unmet needs of patients with extremely refractory disease? And a good thing is there are not a lot of patients, but we do have those patients with a very refractory disease.
So something that is going to happen, very likely, and we have really established this concept of difficult to treat patients, is that after we have failed 2 or 3 mechanisms of action, we know that the likelihood of response or remission is becoming lower and lower and lower. So the key consideration at this point are 2. Either development of drug that could be, like in oncology, used only for this selective type of patient. Maybe the safety could be reconsidered exactly as compared to the efficacy, or combination treatment is going to be used right away after the failing of 1 or 2 classes, because probably this is when we need to hit harder, because we have patients that are more at risk of progressing or more at risk of not responding to the sequential line. So I think that this is an open field. We have in our clinical practice a lot of these patients, but sometimes we don't know what to do. And then we go back to the same treatment, and then these patients undergo repeated surgery. So we must avoid this, and we need to focus in this selective patient population.
But maybe they are not in the guidelines because they are not the majority of our patients, unfortunately. Thank you again for being here. This is your house. Thank you for bringing your knowledge to GETECCU, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.